My honest answer, you can make time if you want to. You know, at the same time as being the head of HR of SG in the UK, I was chair of our corporate foundation, our charity. I was chair of City HR and sitting on the board. I've got 2 young kids. I'm married, and I've got a social life outside of work. And I managed all of that. Maybe not perfectly. My wife's not here to comment, by the way, nor are my kids.
Yeah.
And I'm not perfect at anything here. But I think that if you really want to do something, you can absolutely do it. You've just got to invest the time. And I think that's the word, invest the time, because you will get something out of it.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the HR Leaders Podcast. On today's episode, I'm joined by Ben Higgins, who's a Managing Director and UK Head of HR at Société Générale. During the episode, Ben discusses how COVID changed HR forever, the 4 stages of hybrid work, why EQ is more important than IQ in leadership, and how Société Générale are fostering diversity and inclusion at every level of the organisation for its 117,000 employees. As always, before we jump into the video, make sure you hit the subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, and follow on your favourite podcast platform. With that being said, let's jump in. Welcome to the show, Ben. How are you?
Really good. Thank you for the invite.
Nice to see you. Just think you've only really been 15, 20 minutes away from me this entire time.
Exactly. And now I've come and joined you. So thank you again.
Have you left the safety of Canary Wharf before to go and
Do you know what? I don't live anywhere near London. So leaving Canary Wharf is, is a bit of a thing for me.
Where do you live?
Essex countryside.
Okay, so you're commuting
so I
in.
escape to somewhere where there's no mobile signal, no street lights, a real escape.
Yeah. So how do you get into work? What route do you go?
A long commute, driving, train, underground, walking. But I'm used to it. Although I don't know how I used to do it 5 days a week.
Yeah, I used to travel from Canning Town into London Bridge every day on the Jubilee line, and I say to people, 10 years of commuting on the Jubilee line will do something to your mental health. It's not a fun experience to be there, but Elizabeth line making it a bit better.
It is. It's good.
As well. Before we get into any other topics, tell everyone a little bit more about you personally and your journey to where we are now.
So I started out in HR as a career back in 2000. I joined Dresdner Bank, which doesn't exist anymore, which then was bought, the division I was in, which was asset management, was then bought by Allianz. So I was there for 4 or 5 years. Then I went travelling, which is what I didn't do after uni. So I sort of got that bug out my system.
Okay.
And then I joined SocGen in middle of 2005. And I've done broadly speaking, I've done 6-7 roles in the what is it now? 18 years.
You've been here 18 years now?
18 years with one firm, but I've had the most amazing career.
Multiple careers.
Multiple careers in the same discipline,
Yeah.
But doing the sort of HR business partner, then taking a bit of a risk and doing compensation, then taking some management roles, and then 7 years ago I stepped into the CPO role. And I've been doing that ever since. So It's been, they've been a great company, and I'm still there. I'm still enjoying it.
Yeah, amazing. Did you choose HR though as a career choice, or did you fall into it?
It was a purposeful move, and that's because my dad worked in HR.
That's normally how it happens.
And I can still remember now, and what it must be 30 years ago, seeing him lay out papers on the kitchen table and just being curious and saying, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
And hearing more about what his job was, which was personnel then rather
Completely
than HR.
different.
But let's not get into that debate. And thinking, look, this is actually really quite interesting. And then you know, very basics. That's what the centre of a company is. The assets of most companies are the people.
Yeah.
And that's where my interest started. Then I did a generalist degree at uni, but then focused a bit on HR.
Nice.
And then came into the city and started, as I said, in 2000.
Have you used your dad over the years as did you use him as like an advisor over?
In the beginning, yes, but I think as you grow in confidence and as you sort of get used to what it's like working in financial services, what it's like working in HR nowadays, less so. But in the beginning, certainly.
You're probably updating him on how it's evolving.
Exactly.
Right, the other way around in that sense. Yeah. On that point, and how have you seen the role of the HR leader evolve, especially during COVID?
I think it's changed in actually quite a positive way since COVID. If you think of the financial services crash, was for finance directors, for finance teams, was their moment.
Yeah.
COVID, without doubt, was the moment for, yes, leaders in resilience, but more and more was for people who work in HR. And I think it put us to the forefront of businesses. How do you deal with a crisis? And then how do you manage the new ways of working after that? And let's be honest, it's still in the press today. So we know that the whole topic of hybrid is probably in its fourth iteration, and that's what HR folk are having to navigate alongside everything else that's going on in the world. And let's be honest, at the moment, the world is a pretty complex place to be. So I think it really accelerated the role of HR in organizations. I'm convinced of it.
How did it impact you personally?
It was a pretty stressful moment. On a personal level, my wife is also in HR. She works for a space tech company.
Okay.
So two people, both working from home with two kids off school, both having to manage all the trials and tribulations of a crisis like that. It was very, very stressful, but it was extremely rewarding at the same time, because you are thrust into the limelight. And you know that your decisions and the way you make your decisions really count. So you genuinely make a difference, because people are coming to you with all sorts of questions, and effectively you are the ones, navigating those and coming up with what's the best solution for the business.
Yeah. So obviously HR in many companies either rose to the occasion or they left. And I saw a lot of transitions. A lot of people taking early retirement, a lot of companies letting go of their CHROs who necessarily want the right person to lead them through this crisis. It was kind of a pivotal moment for many.
Oh, undoubtedly. Yeah, it was a really pivotal moment, and we as a profession had to really move into the next gear. I know people say that, but I've never experienced a change like that in terms of the demands of the business on what you do, but also the change in actually what your workload is on a day-to-day basis. And you become, and actually it's continued to be, a crisis manager. So now I'm actually taking personally a leading role in other crises that we've had, because people know that the center of a firm like ours is, of course, we have our clients, but it's people that are creating the solutions for our clients, and that's what we're there to support.
You mentioned the fourth stage of hybrid work. What did you mean by that?
The crisis management. How did we react in March 2020? The second was that immediate moment where we were released to go back to work. So how do we manage that? The third was the first sort of stage where we were trying to create some form of normality. So setting the boundaries, the structures, the frameworks, etc.
Yeah.
And why I say the fourth is now, and we're seeing this with certain firms, is they've trialed that for a year, 18 months. They're feeling as to whether it's working or not, and they're trying something new, or they're adjusting it slightly. That's why I think we're in the fourth wave. Yeah,
because we saw the wave of tech companies reversing back, didn't we? With Google, Twitter, so many, basically, I can keep going. They all, before it was like, all right, we're embracing hybrid. Oh, actually, we want you all back now 3 days a week. And it kind of like, it was like a wave where every day another company announced the same thing.
Exactly.
Everyone just kind of followed everyone. It's just what it felt like anyway.
And I think we're still in the middle of that. And I think firms are still grappling with exactly what to do and what's the best mix. There was an article even, I think it was yesterday, released by Stanford University. And what they said in that was that they analysed the productivity, which is pretty tricky to do actually, but looking at the productivity of firms who've gone hybrid or have gone fully work from home. And those that have gone fully work from home, productivity has dropped, but on the hybrid side, it stayed the same. And I'm a big believer in hybrid. I think it can work under the right conditions with the right commitment from managers. And that's a key part here. HR can set the boundaries, the structure, the policies, etc. But it's managers that are deploying it and navigating it on a day-to-day basis. So that's the success, I think, that you really need them on side to make it work.
What have you done to help support those managers? Because it's been tough. I'll be honest, I struggled even to this day managing a hybrid team, and that's not something we were prepared for, or taught or coached on beforehand.
No, this was not what we learned at uni.
No.
So what we did is first of all, we weren't prescriptive from the top to say, everyone, you must do this, which I know some firms did. So there's arguments for and against. What we did instead is we empowered our exco to say, what mix of working in the office and working from home works best for you, your clients, your business, and so on. And then what we recommended that the teams should do, but again, we didn't prescribe it, but funnily enough, most teams rolled with it, was we created a social charter. So what we said was, in this order, clients come first, then the team, and then you personally, and try and set up your structure within your department to make sure that you deploy hybrid, but you don't forget that clients come first, then the team, and then yourself. Mm-hmm. And then with the team, what's crucial here is the concept of an anchor day. So I'm sure there are different terms that firms deploy for it, but effectively, the day when you as a team come together, you make some effort to have a dialogue, to exchange ideas, to have lunch, to have a social, whatever it might be. And so we effectively help to train our managers deploy this. And I have to say, on the whole, it's been super successful. It's an approach that some of our competitors have taken. I think we were quite early in the deployment of hybrid, actually, because we started it before COVID. And the reason we did this is we moved into a brand new building in the Wharf, and we looked at the ratio of desks to people. We reduced it, and by doing that, we wanted to obviously deploy hybrid. So we started it before. So actually adjusting to a full work at home model or a hybrid model was something that was quite natural for us to do.
Scaling what we've already done.
Yeah, that step wasn't a wholesale shift. It was for us in the UK, adjusting our model. It was a big adjustment, but it was adjusting it nonetheless.
Yeah. That's super interesting. What about engagement? How's hybrid affected engagement?
We measure that. I think to be really honest, we haven't done enough of hybrid to really know.
Okay.
That's my feeling. So far, the feedback that we get is really good. I think the areas, and this is an industry issue rather than an SG. Something I've identified at SG is that managers have got to be really conscious of junior employees who are at that point in their career where they're absorbing information, they're learning, and a lot of that is done just sitting on the floor, listening to what's happening, going to an impromptu meeting, and
things in the flow of work, basically.
Exactly, things that don't happen when you're at home, and just being really conscious of new joiners, because if you've got new joiners in their first week, them working from home, I don't think is a great idea.
No.
I wouldn't think it's a great idea in the first month, if I'm honest. You've got to get, again, with the team, find out about the wider team, your clients, the technology, simple things like that. So those are the two things that I've seen in the industry where I think we need to support managers more, and managers internally to support their teams.
Be more conscious about that. No, I agree. Something we spoke about on our first call together was around management versus leadership and EQ versus IQ balance. Could you share more on that?
Because I'm working in banking, banking is a sector where there's, and I'm sure it's the same elsewhere, but what I see is very high IQ. So clearly when you're trying to look at the products for your clients, what's important there is the way that your brain works, the algorithms you're coming up with, the products you're creating. And I think at the same time, you're managing a team, and IQ and managing a team don't always work so well together. What you need, as we all know on the HR side, is EQ. You need to have that emotional intelligence to really get the most out of your team, listen to them, talk to them, get feedback, react, and all that sort of stuff. And I think that's where, for me, leadership has evolved over the past few years. And it's something that I think is a much harder job than it used to be. And why do I say this? I think COVID has obviously meant that our teams some of them are working from home, some of them are in the office, some of them are on the road. And then firms, we're one of them, who have introduced working from abroad. So you might have team members who aren't even in the same country.
How does that work? Is that a certain amount of months you can do it, tax reasons?
We offer our employees up to 10 days.
10 days, okay.
Per year. There are some conditions attached to this to make sure that we're managing our risk, but the feedback we get is fantastic. It's about trust as well.
Yeah.
And again, that's another thing that, coming back to your original question, leaders, managers really need to be very conscious that when they're giving accountability to their teams, it's all about trust as well. And I think a good leader can manage all of that together, But it's not straightforward to do that. Again, we're not taught how to do that. I feel personally a lot of that has to be quite innate, has to be within you to be a good leader rather than something that you stick someone through a leadership course. I think you have to have some traits, some values that will really enable you to flourish in that sort of role.
Yeah, and a lot of those things, I think a lot of the industry refer it to like power skills now. I think that's sort of the terminology, rather than saying soft skills, which has got a bit of a bad brand around it, if that makes sense as well. So power skills sound, and I think it reflects what they are. So things like leading with empathy, something that I was told as a manager that you never do at all, or being vulnerable.
Exactly.
Something that, again, as when I first became manager, my don't ever show vulnerability. You should be the source of all knowledge, all answers, I realized that by doing that, I was losing trust, and I was distancing myself from my teams. And I remember one of my managers saying, "Hey, they're not your friends, Chris. Why are you sharing all of these things, the things that we're describing now?" And I was like, "Wait, they're human beings. I'm a human being. I spend most of my life with these people, and you're telling me I shouldn't do that as well, right?" But you're right. That's not something we're taught, right? And again, during the pandemic, the line manager and our leaders were having conversations around people's well-being, and it was the first time they ever had to have those type of conversations. So which was tough because none of us had the answers.
No, and during something like that, you're asking people how they feel, and what's better, to get people working in a safe space. The best way to do that is to be authentic, and in my view, that's to be vulnerable, talk about your failures and so on. And that's, again, that's not something that everyone is feeling comfortable with, because you've got to create that safe space for people to be vulnerable, to talk about things which haven't gone quite so right, to avoid them feeling they're being judged and their credibility questioned. So it's a really important part of a modern leader's sort of skill set.
And I think the flip side of it now is, by doing that, when my team need help, they come to me because they've seen me be in a position where I'm like, "Hey guys, I'm not feeling great today. I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed, a bit anxious. I'm not going to be in today." They know that. So if they're ever feeling the same way, they're like, "Oh, okay. They don't need to ask permission." In my previous company, someone asked me one day, they was really struggling with anxiety and their mental health, and they said, "Oh, do I have to book this as my holidays?" And I was like, "Is that the culture that we've created in my, not this company, in my previous company, that someone thought that they can't even ask for that? They rather than come to me or someone in the team, they've booked it as holiday because they didn't feel comfortable to have that conversation." That kind of broke my heart a little bit, if I'm being honest.
I'm not surprised.
So I know a big passion of yours is DEI. Can you share some of the work you're doing at the moment?
Yeah, as a profession, we've been talking about DEI for a long time. We've made a concerted effort over the past few years to really accelerate that. And I think the last 2 or 3 years, we've really got some great results. So what have we done? So we first looked at diversity and looking at what is the mix, what sort of mix we have within the organization. So part of that is data collection. Part of it is looking at our recruitment process, long list, short list, what I would describe as the standard stuff. And then more recently, we've taken a different lens and looked at inclusivity. And I think, our former CEO mentioned, and I think it's a really good quote, he sort of said that, diversity you can control because you can make deliberate decisions as to who you hire. But on inclusivity, you can't control that. It's got to be something that's cultural, that you feel, that you make people in the environment and the atmosphere feel comfortable and can challenge, show their vulnerabilities, etc., without fear of prejudice and so on. And if I give you one example of something that I'm really proud of that we've worked on recently, it was inclusivity training. We started it last year, 2022. And what we did is we trained all of our employees on experientially, in a room, not on hybrid, deliberately. How
did you do that on scale?
We had significant numbers of workshops, simple as that.
Wow.
We brought in, we worked with an external partner, and we ran this face-to-face training with all employees to look at a model of sort of actor, receiver, observer type model. For the first few sessions, we actually had actors in, and then we had some videos to show other groups of staff. And what it's about is just raising your own awareness of what it is to be excluded or included.
Could you share an example of one of those scenarios that you played out?
So this could simply be a group of people who are going to make a presentation in front of management, and you've got one individual who's thought of the idea and has come up with it, and that individual happens to be a woman, and she's accompanied by a more junior guy. To give him some opportunity, the guy presents the idea, and all of the focus is on him. All of the focus is on him, and instead of sharing the credit, giving the credit, or the management asking questions, it really, you can see how you've got exclusion over here of someone who's come up with the idea, made the effort, but then you've got the guy in this example who's taken the credit. And then the second phase of this training that we've started very recently is that we're getting managers themselves to have inclusion conversations with their teams. And in fact, we had the conversation with the HR Exco today, because you shouldn't forget that HR is a team as well. So whilst we know this stuff, you need to make sure that within HR we're being inclusive and we're learning from lessons and so on and so forth. So we had this session today, and it's great just to...
How's that structured?
It's structured in a very open, informal manner of the facilitators, and we've trained managers to be facilitators, telling their own inclusion story.
Okay,
saying about when did they feel particularly excluded, what was the example, and it could be in their personal life as well as their professional life, and then just having just an open conversation. It's not necessarily involving everyone around the room, although clearly that's a part of this, but you want people to feel comfortable having it. And you do this for around an hour and a half, and you come out with, number one, it raises awareness, but then two, sometimes you see for yourself where you need to adjust. Maybe you uncover you share your unconscious biases, and this can be really, you can really get some change out of this.
Yeah,
you can really, you're challenging people on something I've never done this sort of thing before. It by itself is experimental. We're trying something different. But I personally found it, just from doing it within my own exco today, was really powerful. What
have you learned about yourself? You
want me to reveal that?
I don't even mean specifically. I mean, but going through this, for me, I'll show an example for me. Right, my wife is someone who holds me accountable. And she's black. We've got mixed race kid daughter, Robin, 4 years old, and there's certain moments where I'll say certain things and she'll pull me up on it, and I love it. And even on LinkedIn, when you had the George Floyd situation, she was like, "Hey, you've got this global audience. Why have you not shared your thoughts, perspectives?" And I was, and the truth was, I was too worried about saying the wrong thing, like many people are. So that was just a moment for me to reflect and be like, okay, that's the reason I should share it, because that's the exact reason. The reason I didn't post is the reason I should have, and it was good to be, have that moment with her.
And the example I was going to give, you used exactly the words, which is being afraid of saying the wrong thing.
Yes.
And it's really creating the takeaway for me is being conscious of what you say, but also not being afraid to ask the question as to whether what I'm about to say or whether what I've said is actually the right thing. Because let's be honest, on the topics of race and LGBTQ+, it's quite complex.
It is.
It's quite a complex area.
And it keeps evolving as well. So trying to keep up with everything that's happening.
Yeah, certain terminology that you might have used 5 years ago is now terminology you would never use today. Mm-hmm. And we can't all profess to be, experts in this area. So actually what's better is to create the safe space, the space where people can actually ask the question to say, is that the right thing to say or not? And I think that's the big takeaway for me.
Yeah, and it's back to your point earlier about being vulnerable as a leader.
Yes.
And not claiming to have all the answers.
Exactly.
As well, because that's where you get in trouble, when you making assumptions is probably the worst thing you could do.
Well, it gives you more credibility.
That's true.
Because you're showing that side of you that you don't know everything, as you said.
Yeah. What do you see as sort of the main challenges for HR as we look forward?
I think we're currently working in a seriously complex environment, geopolitically, with climate and so on. And I think employees are questioning what they're doing in the future. So I think number one, it's for HR to look at their operating models to see whether they're fit for purpose. I think skills is a big area where HR needs to step up in terms of future skills. We all know about AI and all those sorts of technologies. That is going to change the way that most of us work in the future. So we've got to be able to face that head on. It's something that we're looking at ourselves at the moment. And then on the sort of topic of flexibility and the way that we are working with our employees on topics like well-being and so on, I think that's not going to go away, which I'm really pleased about. But I think, again, HR's got to develop with the times to look at what's out there. How can we support people in new ways at different stages in their life cycle and their own personal life cycle. So I think it's that combination of being future fit and looking at how our organizations need people resource, and at the same time making sure that for our people we're doing the right thing, we're customizing what's possible to customize, and we're actually caring for people. It's a competitive landscape out there.
A lot of what we've spoken about and the evolution of HR is like night and day from when your dad was in it, and even from when you started to where we are now. How do you constantly stay on top of all of the changes, the innovations, just so much? Like, I feel like HR as a function, unlike others, is one of the most evolving, if that makes sense, in terms of the skill set required.
I couldn't agree with you more. And actually, this is another area I'm really passionate about. And the simple answer to your question, but it's quite hard to achieve, and I'm certainly not there yet, is you need to network and you need to listen and have your eyes wide open to what is happening outside. So hence the reason why I was the board member chair of City HR. I still take part in the events that they do, because again, you get to listen to hundreds of other voices of people saying, we're doing this, we're not doing that, this worked, this didn't. At the same time, it's making sure that you're talking to people inside and outside your sector. Financial services is great for some parts of HR, not great for other parts, and I'm sure it's the same in every
specific
industry.
Challenges that your industry faces.
Exactly. So I'm, big time for me is regulation, but in other industries that doesn't feature, but they're looking at something else. So it's just being open-minded to what's happening out there, being curious, and I really drive that word a lot with our employees. It's being curious. I think is one of the is a skill, is a behaviour that I think is so powerful, to be able to really pick up the cues, pick up and be interested in what's happening outside. So you're right, it's changing a lot, but I think if you keep close to the ground, close to what your employees are looking for, what's happening outside, I think you can get a fairly good idea of how things are going to change.
What do you say to those HR leaders, which is normally a response I get, is that they say, Chris, I don't have time?
My honest answer, you can make time if you want to. At the same time as being the head of HR of SG in the UK, I was chair of our corporate foundation, our charity. I was chair of City HR and sitting on the board. I've got 2 young kids. I'm married, and I've got a social life outside of work. And I managed all of that. Maybe not perfectly. My wife's not here to comment, by the way, nor are my kids. And I'm not perfect at anything here. But I think that if you really want to do something, you can absolutely do it. You've just got to invest the time. And I think that's the word, invest the time, because you will get something out of it.
I always say it's like, you don't have time not to do that.
Yes.
It's the reason you're in this position where you're so busy and you're running around in circles is you're not spending time networking, benchmarking, learning, because you could have perhaps avoided some of those mistakes, as well. Because and I've learned that even me, I'm constantly trying to evolve. You mentioned to me when you first came in the studio, like, oh my, like this is a lot. It's intense, whereas like me and Shane always constantly thinking like, how do we create a better experience? How do we make sure we give a consumer grade experience the same way people have on social media, but bringing this type of content, if that makes sense.
Exactly.
Constantly making sure we can do that, but in a very authentic conversational way as possible, as well. What are you most excited about moving forward? For me, what I would love to leave as a legacy is all the different ways we can engage with our employees on a level that we probably don't even know about today. And I know that sounds a bit of a funny answer, but I think there's a hell of a lot that we know about how we engage with our employees. But I think as their skills change and as our skill set as HR, our toolkit as HR changes,
digital takes, we increasingly adopt a digital way of working. I think it's the way that we interact with our employees is going to change significantly, and that's the bit that excites me about the future. I think it's not just what might happen in 1-2 years' time. I think it's looking further afield than that.
Yeah, love it. Before I let you go, I'm going to jump into our quick fire round. So I'm going to ask you questions. But
I've got to do really quick answers.
30 seconds.
Oh, okay.
That's it. All right. Ready? Are you ready?
Go on, hit me.
All right. What are your hobbies and passions outside of the office?
I don't take risks in the office that much, so my hobbies outside are a bit more risky. So I like trials motorbike riding.
Okay.
And I like clay pigeon shooting.
Wow. Okay. So
I stumped you there.
You did. You, both of them. You tried to stump me on.
There you go.
So trials is like the downhill or like the obstacles.
Yeah, obstacles, no seat on the motorbike. And yes, I have fallen off and I injured myself quite badly and I had to take most of a year out to recover, but I'm getting back on very soon.
Okay. Fair enough. I don't think you could be stressed out about work in that moment.
Precisely. And this is the whole point.
Escape.
Of those, it's exactly, to your point, it's escapism.
Yeah.
Both of those hobbies are total escapism because you have to be focused.
In the moment. No, I love that.
Exactly.
I have similar hobbies that also do the same thing. If you could click your fingers and change one thing about HR, what would you change?
Our reputation. I think sometimes our reputation isn't as strong as it should be, and I think here HR has to look at itself and the way we market and shout about the good stuff that we do. I don't think we do enough of that stuff, and I think that if we shout more about what we do, will really help our reputation.
That's literally why I created this show.
Voila, there's your link.
In the first place, how would your kids describe what you do for a living?
As I said earlier, my wife and I are both working in HR at a senior
level. Well, you and your wife.
And actually, the kids said they don't want to do HR because they see the stress on their mum and dad's face when we've had a difficult meeting.
How old are they?
They're 9 and 12.
Okay, they're already feeling it.
They're already feeling it, and working from home means sometimes they see it.
They literally see it.
I think they don't want to go anywhere close to this profession, but I think that if I asked them here, they'd be talking about the typical stuff of having meetings, talking about stuff.
Yeah.
They're not going to be able to really understand everything about what we do. It's a complex profession. It's getting increasingly complex.
Fair enough. At least there's normally the response is my daddy or mummy, they hire and fire people.
They might say that. I should have asked them before.
No. You should ask him one day to see what their answer is. If you wasn't in HR, what do you think you'd be doing, career-wise?
I wanted to be a pilot as a kid.
Really?
But I don't know, what would I be doing? Something outside, less stress, maybe something like running a boutique hotel or a vineyard.
Oh, so it's like leisurely.
Yeah.
Nice.
Interacting with people.
Interact with people.
When they're in that sort of mood of positivity. That's what I'd probably go for.
Love that. Until they give you a headache because their bed wasn't made properly and then it wasn't clean and then the eggs weren't poached.
You've taken the edge off it now.
I'm joking.
But yeah, something like that.
No worries. This is a question that I've added. You're the first person I'm asking this new one to. What don't HR leaders talk about enough that they really should?
It's a tough question. I would say that HR needs to link its own strategy with the business strategy and not do something in isolation. Really link it down to what is the business trying to do for its clients and linking that to what it is trying to do for its people. Simple
Isn't that what it's already doing?
I think it does it. It does it quite well.
Okay.
But I sometimes see out there people talking about HR and I think, but what's that got to do with your business? I struggle to see the linkage at all times.
Yeah, maybe I'm siloed because I'm speaking to people like you every day and I've already got there.
Maybe.
What would you say is the biggest investment you've made in yourself?
I think was taking a lateral career move around 2009 and moving out of a business partner role into a specialist role and doing compensation. It was a bit of a risk because I wasn't a compensation expert. I didn't want to spend my career in it, but I was interested and curious, as I said earlier. And I wanted to effectively have another string to my bow. That was probably the best investment because I felt and still feel, and it's proved to be positive, that to get this role as CPO, you need to have another string to your bow like that.
Yeah, I think that's the common trait I've seen over the last 600 episodes is many of the most successful CPOs have had moved laterally across all of the different functions or specialisms. And then by the time they've got to that role of CPO, they don't just understand it, they've lived it and breathed it.
Exactly.
And they know exactly what it takes.
It comes back to that word of credibility.
Yeah.
In front of your teams, you become credible because you've seen what they do, or certain teams, you've seen what they do, you've lived it.
Yeah. Who would you say is the one person that's had the biggest impact on your career?
Probably my dad for giving me the idea of going into HR, but I would say I had a fantastic coach, a chap by the name of Patrick Hobbs, who really opened my eyes to linking sort of your professional, personal life with your values, and really being, it's a bit of a cheesy expression, but being true to yourself. I think if very regularly, at least weekly, about some of the things that he got me to think about. So that's probably within my career, is having, I think, really good coaching is life-changing.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that one. And my coach Chester, I say to him, I couldn't live without you. It's fine as well. He's taught me so much about myself.
Exactly.
As well. And you don't stay in a job as long as you have in a company if it isn't aligned with your values and your purpose.
And you need support. This is a tough job, and to have someone who you can talk to and who can get more out of you, more performance and so on, I think it's invaluable.
Yeah. Last question. What advice would you give to the HR leaders of tomorrow that are going to be sitting in your seat one day?
I would say be curious, take some risks with your career, and I would say probably the third thing I would say is get to know people, ask questions, and get out there and learn more and more about this profession.
Yeah, and it's going to be never-ending learning curve.
It should never end. Exactly.
That's a good thing. That's a fun thing, though, right?
Yeah,
it's what keeps
100%.
you engaged for so long.
100%.
Like other roles, you kind of hit a ceiling. Whereas if you don't like disruption, don't work in HR. I mean, don't work in HR.
If you don't like disruption and transformation, it doesn't stand still.
Yeah, and people challenges.
Exactly.
Listen, I'm so happy we managed to get to see you in person, and appreciate you coming on, and look forward to doing it again soon. Appreciate it.
Thank you for the invite again, and great being with you.
Thanks.
Thank you.